What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of Reacts, as we're going to be looking into the story that the Sun broke last night, late last night, or early this morning, should I say, about the Korean national team in there just before the Jordan game. Apparently a bust-up which left Son with dislocated fingers. As you can see, Sonny does have two fingers strapped up to his hand at the moment, and
everyone was wondering what happened.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Everyone was wondering what happened, and now it's come to light what actually has happened. The Sun broke it, and we're all thinking, we were sharing it around the WhatsApp group saying, surely this aren't true. Like the Sun breaking a news at like midnight, surely this can't be true.
Yeah.
And it's come to pass that everything has been true.
Yeah, the Korean FA have confirmed the story. Lee Kang-in has put an apology out, which we'll get into as well in React. So it is quite an interesting story surrounding the goings-on of the Korean camp just before the Jordan game, and maybe shed some light into why there was such a poor performance in that Jordan game in the semi-final, and why everyone seemed to be very disjointed, and there was clearly no togetherness in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll go on to Twitter, X, and we'll see how the internet did react to it. And we'll start off with Sung-Mo Lee. He's quote retweeting a Alistair Gold piece, and this says, a little piece on Heung-min Son altercation and injury behind the scenes with South Korea as he tried to be peacemaker, which has caused a storm back home. Thanks to Sung-Mo Lee for his expert knowledge on things Korean football and Sonny. And Sung-Mo has quote retweeted that, saying this article only includes confirmed stories by KFA or players themselves. Lee Kang-in's quote apology for the verbal argument. My view on the whole situation. There are more aggressive stories around, but I didn't share any stories that are not confirmed. So I think all these kind of pieces are going to come on later in the Reacts episode, but it's just interesting to see that, you know, very reliable journalists in Ali Gold and Sung-Mo Lee on the Korean side are all confirming these things. Eurofoot says a big fight occurred during South Korea's Asia Cup tournament. Kang-in Lee was at the center of the issue, with some other players asking Klinsmann to exclude him. As a result of the incident, Son's finger was dislocated trying to separate players, as reports from Yonhap out in Korea. And I think what the situation was is that Kang-in Lee apparently didn't want to eat with the team anymore. He left early, wanted to play pool with some of his younger counterparts. And Sonny didn't like it, did he? And went to confront him, and then some other players got involved, and it proved like a big bust-up within the squad. Son tried to be peacemaker, and he was the one dislocating two of his fingers.
Can't believe they ended up injuring Sonny going into such a big game in the semi-final as well, what it caused. And maybe it shows a bit of the immaturity in a lot of that Korea squad. And unfortunately, we were all wondering, you know, why during the whole tournament there didn't seem to be everyone fighting for each other. As we said in that Jordan game, it's at points it seemed like no one was running, no one was fighting for each other, and now it seems there was a few splits in the camp, and Kang-in Lee was part of like the younger players in the squad. Apparently, obviously, everyone eats together during mealtime. That's how Son, the captain, wants it, and maybe Klinsmann as well. But he wants everyone to eat together to build team bonding, and apparently people were still eating, and Kang-in Lee wanted with a few of the younger players to go and play some, I think it was ping pong or pool, one of the two. And Heung-min Son took issue to that. He said, no, everyone eats together, and then when everyone's finished, we can go do whatever we want. But got into a big bit of a fight, and obviously some players backed up Sonny, and it caused this whole big issue. So not nice to read about, but obviously Son has certain ways of dealing with things to bring the team together, and it's a shame that Kang-in Lee had to go against that.
It's crazy though to do these kind of things on the eve or a couple of days before such a big game, one of the biggest games in Korean's history, footballing history. It's madness. Like, you would think like in that moment of time after such a dramatic win against Australia, that would bring the team together, not make them further apart. It's just craziness. And what do you reckon Klinsmann was doing in the background while this was going on? Just smiling in the background. Sung-Mo Lee again, quote retweeting Kang-in Lee's Instagram post, saying Kang-in admitted that there were verbal argument between him and Heung-min Son and apologized for it on his Instagram story. Until this moment, there are no further official comments from the KFA about the issues between the players or about Klinsmann's issue.
It's interesting,
but he's issued an apology to Sonny.
But it's interesting as well, if a lot of players wanted him dropped. I don't know if we're getting into that. Okay, so we'll get into that. But yeah, so there you go. It means from the horse's mouth, Kangin Lee does confirm there was a verbal argument with him and Sonny. So yeah, really disappointing, to be honest.
It's not the first time, is it, that we've seen like these kind of things happen. You know, I remember a year or two ago, Kim Min-jae and Sonny having an altercation with each other as well. It's weird that this kind of stuff happens in the Korean national setup.
Sonny has high standards.
Yeah, and so he should. But these guys should have high standards as well. You know what I mean? It's not like they're not playing for massive clubs themselves. He's playing for PSG, and Kim Min-jae at the time, I think, I'm not sure who he was playing for, to be honest. But, you know, you're still a big
Napoli,
player.
I think.
Where?
Napoli, I think.
Napoli was still a big club. But this is from Korea Football News, and saying the national team players were usually having dinner together the day before the game to strengthen unity. However, the day before the Jordan match, young players, including Kangin Lee, Seo Young-woo, and Jung Woo-young, ate early and played table tennis. They played table tennis noisily next to the other teams who were eating dinner. Son tried to stop them, but they did not listen. Son got angry and grabbed Kangin Lee by the collar, and Lee swung his fist at Heung-min Son. Son dodged Lee's fist, but injured his finger, while other players tried to stop the two players. Senior players, including Song, asked Jurgen Klinsmann to exclude Lee from the roster for the match against Jordan, as he had disrupted the team atmosphere, but Klinsmann did not accept this.
Well, and he got what happened. He got the consequences of that, which was a performance which no one liked. Not a shot on target at all against Jordan. Clearly, there was an issue between Kangin and Son. They didn't seem to be passing to each other at all during the game. And that's really hard to hear. And it seems like Kangin was just being very immature in that element, and maybe Son overreacted potentially, going so hard, you know, grabbing him by the collar and making a physical altercation. But if he's trying to harness a unity between the team, and you've got you know, these young players going off, creating a bit of ruckus and disrupting what Son's trying to do, that must be very frustrating. And this is what Ange talks about when he says, you know, one bad egg in a way. I'm not saying Lee Kangin's a bad egg, but I'm just saying how. This situation. Yeah, I'm just saying how. A few people go against what you're trying to do, and it can cause a whole disruption. It can cause a lot of damage, and this is proof of it. You know, Lee Kangin going and playing table tennis with a few of the young players, and it just causes a whole disruption, and it causes a lot of problems. It led to this whole blowout. So, should Klinsmann have dropped Lee Kangin? Well, it couldn't have gotten worse in the Jordan game, so I think probably yes.
Yeah, I think you've got to back your captain in these situations, especially someone who, like Heung-min Son, with the stature that he does have. I know Kangin Lee can be a difference maker, but having riffs on the football pitch is not where you want to be.
Seems like a bit of an arrogant guy, Lee Kangin, to be honest. Maybe it's going to his head, all this praise.
Yeah, you don't step up to Heung-min Son like that.
Who do you think you are? All right, you're doing well at PSG. You've done a few good games.
He's a national hero, Heung-min
But
Son.
don't you dare look at Heung-min Son and think you're bigger than him. He thinks he's bigger than Son. He thinks he can get away with it. That's why he did it. And he's getting too big for his boots, Lee Kangin.
Well,
needs some humbling.
He's come out with an apology, so maybe that is a sign that he's getting back into his box,
Good.
shall I say. Let's scroll down a little bit to Sung-mo Lee's next tweet. Yeah, and it says about this report. This was the one that's the Sun reports, and he says about this report, the Sun, the KFA admitted it was true that there was a bust up. However, it is important to remember the real issue for Korean football now is the KFA and Klinsmann, not the players. Don't jump into conclusion about players until we hear from them. And it is kind of strange, isn't it, where these reports come out on Korea time through English media after there's been such a kind of influence, or not influence, but such a focus on Klinsmann from the Korean fan base, such a focus on the KFA, and then these kind of reports get leaked into the press. It is a bit strange, isn't it?
Are they trying to divert attention?
I think so. And when you're looking at it, as much as Heung-min Son, the players had an issue, Kangin Lee has an issue, these guys are still the future of Korean football. Mm-hmm. The KFA and Klinsmann still need to go and still need to, well, not the KFA needs to go. The KFA is never going to go, but the guys running the KFA and Klinsmann need to take a long, hard look at themselves. They need to restructure the way that Korean football works, because these things can get resolved. Kangin Lee and Heung-min Son, like, they'll be in the squads for years to come.
We walk under the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. And Klinsmann and the leaders of the KFA, they're the ones that have probably got this situation to where it is.
Yeah, and apparently there is a split in the KFA at the moment whether to keep Klinsmann or not. Some people want to keep him. I think the head of the KFA apparently sees no reason to let him go. And maybe he's using this as a way to divert attention, get people arguing about whether they're Team Lee Kang-in or Team Heung-min Son, and avoiding looking at the KFA as to the future of Korean football, and just allow Klinsmann to keep doing what he's doing. I think that is where the focus needs to be. Yes, there was a fight and it's bad and there was a problem, and I'm sure in a few years' time or even sooner than that, they'll make up and there won't be an issue going forward. But it's very peculiar timing. As soon as the pressure's building on the KFA, they release a story, and they release this story on the morning of when, I think it was like midnight or 11 p.m. English time. So even though it was an English publication, they were releasing it more of like when the Korean public are waking up looking at the news. So the definitely point tells me that this was something for the Korean public to focus on and to break, rather than like a story about Heung-min Son specifically.
Yeah. Fighting Stripes Football says, regarding Kangin Lee and Heung-min Son, fights happen in a tension-packed tournament setting more so. But the Sun got the leak. The KFA jumped to confirm it. This is clearly desperation from Chung. Let's not give in what they want. Keep the focus on Klinsmann out and Chung out. And I think that's spot on, to be honest. Because like I said before, Kangin Lee and Heung-min Son, they'll settle their differences. They'll be top players for Korea. But Klinsmann and Chung, they have no future in what they're doing unless Chung changes his ways and sacks Klinsmann and hires a manager that can actually do the job and actually passionate about the job. Nothing's going to move forward.
Yeah, it's a distraction. It's a major distraction from the core issue, which was how Klinsmann was managing the team. And as much as these two players got into a fight, the reason why Korea throughout the tournament were not doing so well was not because those two players got into a fight the night before the semi-final. It's because of how they've been playing throughout the whole tournament, and that includes in the group stages and all that. So that's what the Korea FA and Klinsmann have to take responsibility for, not just blame it on a fight that happened the night before the final semi-final.
Let's go down to not the Trade Talk one, the one after that. It says it's so cliche, which is kind of dirty media play from the KFA. They just blame the players for their failure. They didn't even apologize for their performance and instead quickly spilled the beans about the players' fights. It's so shameful. And again, I agree with this absolutely wholeheartedly, to be honest. And
yeah, why did they confirm it? They had no reason to confirm it straight away. They could have just left it as a rumor, and some people would have believed it, some people wouldn't have believed it, and that's it. So they jumped
attention. That's
exactly.
all it is.
They jumped to confirm it to make sure that everyone knows it's true, and we're going to distract you from the core issues, and that's what it is—a major distraction.
And last but not least, we've got one here from Tideris Du saying, the KFA, you should be ashamed for taking advantage of this man's dedication for his country. Son, who played with injuries, hernia problems, groin issues, facial fracture, etc., for his country and his nation. This is how the KFA repays him, by throwing him under the bus. Still remember how his face got ballooned in the World Cup after the Brazil match. We love you, our captain. And that's the way Heung-min Son, as in he should be treated with the utmost respect in terms of whether it's a Korea setting, a Tottenham setting, whatever it is. He always gives 110% to the cause, and his name should never be thrown into disrepute, ever.
100%, especially from the Sun, leaking news to the Sun, and then it's basically gossiping. I know it obviously turned out to be true, but these things should be kept in-house. If they had a fight, doesn't mean it should be public knowledge. Obviously, we're talking about it, but it's because it's been confirmed by the Korean Football Association, which should never really be the case when you're talking about such a national hero like Heung-min Son, who dealt with the situation in the best way he sees fit. Maybe he'll acknowledge he overreacted. Maybe he feels he didn't overreact. I don't know the situation, but I don't know why the KFA are getting involved in confirming these kind of stories. It's a bit peculiar to me, and doesn't seem right when Sonny dealt with the situation in a way as a captain, which he felt was the right situation at the time, and now the KFA are coming and saying, yeah, it's true, Son and Kangin Lee had a fight and this happened and that. I was like, what are you doing? You're confirming tabloid stories now. Just leave it and no comment. Why do you have to confirm it?
Yeah. Diverting attention to from what the real problem is. And yes, this is a problem, but like I said, these problems get resolved. These happen, maybe don't dislocate fingers and stuff like that, but arguments happen all the time in football behind closed doors. And it happens a lot more than you'd probably be led on to think without the news ever spilling and the news ever coming out. This news has come out because the KFA wanted it to come out. They wanted to divert attention away from what the real issue is, and that is themselves, and that is the manager of the football team. And that's the situation we're in at the moment. But at least Sonny is back at Tottenham now. He's back in a happy place until these issues do get resolved. Let's hope they do get resolved before the next time the national team do meet up. I think it's in March. They've got a game against China, and there's another game in there as well. But that's how the internet reacted to the bust-up between Kangin Lee, one side of the team and the other side of the team, with Kangin Lee and Heung-min Son at the centre of things. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and we'll see you next time.